It's kind of an ironic conclusion of a long book about religion to say that fundamentally it's not about religion. Okay, the conflicts in the modern world are fundamentally not about religion. But that actually is the conclusion. Religious conflicts now, like religious conflicts then, are ultimately driven by facts on the ground, political, economic, social facts, and it isn't the case that any religion is just eternally and intrinsically violent or eternally and intrinsically peaceful. A big part of the book is to try to figure out how you bring out the best and the worst in a religion, and the argument is that it actually is clear what did that in ancient times, what circumstances brought out the best in God, and that it's the same thing that would bring out the best in religions today, and that that's the way to think about the problem, is solve the problems on the ground, and religion will take care of itself. It's common to focus on some of the belligerent stuff in the Quran, like there's this famous verse that's commonly quoted as, kill the infidels wherever you find them. The actual translation is kill the polytheists wherever you find them. So it's actually, it doesn't pertain, as some people try to imply, to kind of Christians and Jews in any obvious way. But anyway, it does say kill the polytheists wherever you find them. On the other hand, if you go immediately above the verse in setting it up, it kind of says basically, except for the polytheists with whom we are in league. Okay, and then down below the verse, there's some other kind of qualifying verses. And what that shows you is that it really wasn't about the religion. What Muhammad was saying was that so long as we are allies of these polytheists, they're fine. You know, if they're on our side, they're fine. It's the enemies in this particular war that we want to kill. So when the dynamic is zero-sum, you're intolerant of them. When it's non-zero-sum, they're fine. It's fundamentally not about the religion. I mean, you see this throughout the Quran. There's a great variation of scripture ranging from, that, kill the infidels, to you have your religion, we have ours. A lot of benign, tolerant passages, a lot of belligerent ones, and they always make sense in light of circumstance. So that's basically what I found across all the scriptures. When people see themselves as standing to gain from peaceful interaction with other people or collaboration with them, the tolerant side of their religion comes out. I hope they'll take away the idea that the salvation of the world in the kind of Hebrew Bible sense of the term, that is to say the preservation of peace and order, requires moral progress, an expanded kind of moral horizon, a greater ability to put ourselves in the shoes of people in very different circumstances from ours, and that, we all have to do our part. And if it inspires them to think, as I argue, that this moral imperative reflects some kind of larger purpose that's been unfolding all through, really not just human history, but the history of organic life on this planet, I hope they'll take that prospect seriously. It's just a speculation. I mean, it's conjectural, but I think it actually has there's a solid basis for the conjecture, more solid than atheists realize, than a lot of secular people realize. There's serious, solid intellectual basis for the suggestion that there's some larger purpose unfolding with a moral direction. If that inspires people, great. A lot of people don't need that, and they don't need it to be good people. That's fine too, as long as they understand the stakes right now of being good people. That really, the ongoing coherence of this human experiment, the preservation of peace and order in the world, does depend on moral progress, and we should all do our part. That's enough. I don't care whether they think there's a higher purpose. I'm not positive that there is. Oh, I believe there is some larger purpose that we don't understand. I've rarely had the chance to make the argument in anything like rigorous terms. I co-taught a course at Princeton with Peter Singer, who's this very noted philosopher, and I think I'm not misrepresenting his view to say that when I finally got him to sit down at lunch and let me sketch out diagrams and stuff, he agreed that the kind of evidence I was adducing to support this argument of teleology, that there was evidence of some sort of larger purpose unfolding, was a valid kind of evidence. That's not to say that he thought, well, it's overwhelming evidence. But he's like, yeah, okay, it adds to the strength of the argument. And I've rarely had a forum to talk to philosophers in that way. And the books I've written, because they're for a general audience, I don't use them that way. I never make the argument as rigorously as I would like to make it. In any event, if I had to bet, yeah, I would bet, I'd give you odds. I mean, that there's, in some sense, this larger purpose unfold. In other words, there's something about the way natural selection was conceived or created that we don't understand, that would explain why evolution has had this direction and why cultural evolution has, and would shed some light on what seems to be this kind of directionality that's of a moral sort. Then there's also this in terms of what I think, which is just, I've written a lot about evolutionary psychology, and it really makes you appreciate that the human mind was designed for a very narrow set of tasks, really. When you think about it, getting genes into the next generation is a pretty mundane, almost pathetically mundane thing to organize an information processing system around, Not the highest calling. There's just no reason to think that the human mind is capable of conceiving anywhere like, all dimensions of reality or the full breadth of the deal. And certainly what we now know about quantum physics has just driven this home. I mean, I have this kind of afterword in the book where I make the point, it's not just that I kind of compare believing in electrons to believing in gods. Not that I would say that they're in a bunch of respects comparable, but they're closer than scientists generally acknowledge. In other words, it's not just that we've never really seen an electron, yet we believe in them. It's that we now have pretty clear evidence that they're not even conceivable. The human mind can't conceive of an electron. There is some kind of weird paradox built into its structure, and it's not even clear that it really makes sense to say that electrons exist. Yet we talk about them existing. Evolutionary psychology and modern physics actually kind of together give us more reason to be a little open-minded about the potential range of phenomena, and a little more skeptical of our ability to be sure about the kinds of questions that religions have asked. We just don't know. And it's naive to rule out the possibility of larger purpose in any event, and I think there's actually evidence for it.